So honeymoon, hotel time, we chilling. We like, it's about to go down.
Oh, God.
It's about to go down. Like, I seen the movies. It's about to go down. I seen the movies about to go down. So we get in there and it is not working. It's like, nope. You don't realize, like, we all knew here. Like, it's gonna take some time, some TLC. It's gonna take some TLC to get in there, right? So, TLC. So our first night, we didn't even sleep together. It didn't happen. No consummation there, right? So I wake up the next morning and you talk about
wait. So
Hey, man. Another episode of Couples Connect, man. This is your boy, Kevin and
Tanya.
Yeah, man. We got another episode of Couples Connect. We're talking to another amazing couple today, allowing them to share their story, their testimony, and, some of the good, some of the bad, what ugly, whatever they want to share. We're going to get into it, man. We're going to dig all into their business today, man. So, guys, please allow us to introduce to you Mr. Josh and Misha, man, to Couples Connect podcast today. What's going on, good people?
Hi.
How are you guys? Thank you for having us.
We're happy to be here. Y'all are beautiful.
You guys are beautiful too. Real quick, it's Misha, right?
It is Misha. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Because I'm correcting him, and I wanted to. Huh?
People are calling her Maisha for the longest.
And I correct her every time.
Every time. It was coming, Kev. You Tanya saved you. It was coming. She was so picky.
Hey, see my ear over there, man. Misha.
Because I was calling you Misha for a while.
Yes. No, it's me. That's good. Like, Michelle Obama's nickname is Mish. That's what everybody calls me. So if you want to call me, I'm cool with that.
Good deal, man. Good deal. Well, hey, man. Once again, thank y'all for being patient and willing to be a part of Couples Connect podcast, man, and share your story with us. We talked a little bit about, you and Tanya mainly, Misha, have been talking and chopping it up. Like y'all on the same little wavelength right now, you know what I'm saying? Got this little vibe going. But
we do.
But me and Josh, man, we still there, baby. Me and Josh, we hey, I feel you, baby. I feel you. So let's get into it, man. I want y'all to tell the people a little bit about who you guys are, what you got going on, how long y'all been married, kids, man. Talk to us. What y'all got?
Yeah, so we start off with how long we've been married. Been married for 16 years.
This year.
Going on 16 years, July 25th.
Yeah.
We actually are high school sweethearts, so we've been together for 25.
25?
Like wow. So I guess we old, baby.
We old then.
I guess we old then.
It'll be
too late.
It'll be 20.
We ain't that old.
We old.
Wow, Mish. Wow.
I love y'all. It's all love. There's wisdom in age in many years of marriage.
Tell her she can't get that back now.
Yeah. She moonwalking now. Don't moonwalk now.
I'm moonwalk now. Yeah. No, I'm on your side. You're trying to get me in trouble this early in the podcast. Don't try to get me in trouble this early.
Josh look at us. I'm on your side. That's funny.
So yeah, 21 years on May 26th. It'll be 21 years. And it's been a great journey. We learned a lot over these years. I remember the first day walking into her father and mother's home. and her dad sitting me down asking me like, what are your intentions with my daughter? I'm like, I am 16. I'm not even sure yet, but I came up with some clever answers. I did. I came up with some clever answers on the spot. I was like, I'm just date her now, and if the Lord tells, because he was a deacon, so I was like, the Lord tells me, it's time to get married down the road. If we still there, then we're gonna make that thing happen. But we ended up actually starting to date that same day, and it's really been a journey. And got married 2009, July 25th. And 2 weeks later, shipped off to France. Mm-hmm. And so our life together and our career, I played basketball. And my wife, Misha, she was an amazing communications major. And she kind of put that on hold, and we decided to start our life together early on in marriage at the age of 22, in life 22. And 12 years we went overseas and played basketball, and she made sure our home was amazing while we were over there and raising our 2 children.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who are our 2 children?
That sounds good. That's good. That's a good intro.
We got 2 kids. You want to tell
2 beautiful children from our union of almost 16 years. Maya, who is 10, and Joshua Jr., who's 6, and they are really the light of our lives. It's funny because when we were kids, we always wanted to have a lot of kids, but you don't really know anything until you get into like marriage and life. And when I was pregnant with our children, I suffered from this condition called hyperemesis gravidarum. So I would get very sick. And I was like, 2 is all I can do. Like I can't do any more than that. That's it. So the Lord blessed us to have those 2. And they were a part of our journey for a bit while we were overseas and, growing together as husband and wife. But it has been a journey, as he has said. It has not come without some peaks and valleys, right?
Yes.
I think marrying young, like he said, for me, I think having a kingdom-centered marriage is very important. But when you're young, I don't think you have all of the wisdom and knowledge to truly build a kingdom-centered marriage. Not everyone has that story, but for us, I went to church. I grew up in church. I grew up Kojic. And then my family kind of did the non-denominational thing. But as I looked back over my journey, I felt like I went to church, but I wasn't really saved. So by the time we got married, trying to build something that, one, I really had never seen, and something that like had Christ at the center was hard. And so in the beginning, I think for me as a wife, I just felt a lot because he said, he had a professional career. And what that looked like for me was like giving up my potential and my future to support him. And being that we were kind of like the trailblazers in our family for that, like nobody had ever, done that before. There was nobody that I could look to as a wife to like help guide me, to help me rationalize like what that actually looks like. Because, you go from like being in high school and, he has some recognition, but, you still have your family and your own life. So you're not really immersed in it, to like being immersed in it. And you start to kind of lose your identity and feel like I was going to be somebody. I was going to do something, and I remember feeling frustrated early on because I was in communication and I was actually going to try to be on television. That's what I went to school to do. So when I graduated, I spent all of this time doing these internships and making all these great connections. And so as I approached graduation, my professor, he was like, your husband's going to be Mr. Misha. That's what he said. And so to go from that to like feeling as if I'm in my husband's shadow because of his career, it was a lot. And nobody could help me navigate that because everybody was so proud and like, oh, they made it and they're married. And we had this kind of reputation, right, of like being this kind of pure couple and, trying to live God's way and all of that, but nobody could see like the other side and what that was like for a young wife and just transitioning into, like being an individual and then like giving up that to marry somebody who then had a professional career.
Yeah. And I had no idea. Like, you get married when you're 22, so you have no idea like how to be a husband. And I give so much credit to my father. Like he's a assistant pastor. Him and my mom have been married for 7 years, and I was able to watch him do a lot of things. But you really don't. And they got married when they were 19 and 20. So even before we did. Yeah. So he taught me everything he could by his actions and his words. But when it came to like understanding her situation, and how to make sure that I was esteeming her, honoring her, building her up at 22, I stunk at that. I didn't know a thing about that. It's like you can't teach especially in my profession, you just couldn't teach something like he didn't know. Just like you said, sure. We were trailblazers for that. So to be like, okay, you're going to have to really like build your wife up, make sure she is beside you and not behind you when it comes to you playing basketball, being over here, because being over in Europe is like basically I was in the NBA, but in Europe, the type of recognition and like stuff that you get over there.
I'm glad you finally admitted to that.
Yeah, it is. It's true. It's true. So yeah, it's like a lot of recognition. So we had a difficult time probably navigating that when we were younger. Sure. When we were younger. So that's kind of the long short of the of the story when it comes to that.
So Misha, how did your dad feel, man? I know he was all up in Josh's face at 16. You know what I'm saying? Now he's taking you across the world. How did he feel about that, mom and dad?
It's funny because when I was in college, I think my dad was probably the one person to say, like, you're focused too much on that relationship. You need to focus more on your studies and things like that. But he always knew that Josh was a good guy. So where we're from we told y'all we're from Gary, Indiana originally. And everybody knows everybody up there. So my dad knew the Mayo family, like, from way back in the day. So once he found out that he was a Mayo and like his uncle was someone he used to hoop with, like when they were kids, he was like, oh, okay, those are good people. So he kind of always had that, like perception of Josh. Like he was always a stand-up guy, always very respectful and all those things. So when it came to me getting married to him, like, for any dad, he felt like, I was making a good choice as far as, like a mate, someone that you're going to partner with, do life with. Not that it would be easy, but he had peace that, he was putting me in the hands of someone that he could trust. And my dad, he's kind of old school with his thinking, like, I raised you guys right. I gave you the tools and I have to let you make your own choices. So he wasn't as torn up about it. Like he actually was saying, like, I think the distance will be good for you guys because we both come from really large families. My dad's one of 10, his dad's one of 10. And so, you got a lot of people around you. You can, it can be a little chaotic. It can be a lot of noise, a lot of noise. So my dad was like, this distance is definitely good for y'all. My mom was crying. She was the one, she was, broken up about it because it's like, I'm sending my baby off, first you're married and now you're going off to this foreign land. Like prior to that, I don't think our parents had really traveled. Well, I can't speak for your parents. My parents outside of the United States to Europe. So it's like, where are you going? And, I think it was just a little bit overwhelming for her. But my dad, he was confident that the distance would be good for us to build our own foundation.
Yeah, her dad's faith level is on his faith is on a different level. Like he'd be like, "Yeah, let's go. Y'all gonna be good."
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, he's pretty optimistic.
Yeah, he was. He's been like entire.
So y'all got married real early, man. I could imagine because I know Tanya and I we got married early. We were in our late 20s. I was in my late 20s.
He was in his late 20s. I was 24.
Oh,
I was in my early 20s.
She says this like I'm so much older than her. I'm only 2 years older than her.
No, you're not. You're almost 4 years older than me.
Anyway, we were around the same age. We were around the same age.
How you go from 2 to 4? Listen, he want me to be up there so bad, y'all. So bad.
Anyway, so but we were in our mid to late 20s, and man, it was different, right? It was some challenges that we had, even a little bit older than you guys were, but still some challenges early on in the marriage. So I could imagine, young, on the other side of the world, you know what I'm saying? Like Misha said, she didn't really have any family, any connections to that. What were some of the challenges I had to deal early on? Because I could imagine that. Even before kids, right? Just the two of you guys, two different worlds coming together. Now y'all in another, part of the world. Just y'all two kind of dealing with it. What was that like?
Yeah, I would say, well, we can, I feel like both perspectives, from my perspective, it was communication, but little things turning into big things. When you are just getting married, it's like you feel like you got to win a battle, an argument, or something like that, and you will just die. You will trying to win that battle. Now in 16 years, probably like maybe 2-3 years ago, she first decided like, I'm not even just gonna talk to you until you can just speak to me with some sense, and and then finally I grasped it and was like, why am I arguing? All of this came from the word though, but I'll get to that part in a minute. But really, little things turn into big things. I was we had a story where we had just got over to France. It wasn't probably a week or two, and when I take a shower, I'm used to getting out the shower how I want to. It don't matter how I get out the shower, wet feet, dry feet, anything. So I get out the shower with wet feet. The floor gets wet, right? I didn't dry off my feet like I was supposed to. Now I'm a pro with that. But back then I didn't know. So I get out the shower with my feet wet, and she come in like, yo, could you dry off your feet when you get out the shower? And I've only been married for 32 seconds, so I'm like, I'm gonna get out the shower if I want to. Like that there alone could turn into something, and I believe it did. If I remember right, it turned into something, an argument, and we finally talked and got through it. But that's the part I think that takes the time, the communication, to realize like what actually matters and what doesn't, and how I'm supposed to be. I'm talking from my perspective. So over the years, going into my word and just, learning about, Galatians 5, fruits of the spirit, like you don't realize how unkind you could be. Like he literally says, these are the fruits of the spirit: kindness, goodness, love, self-control. I was breaking all the rules. I was flunking every test. And it was like, yo, and it didn't happen until literally, not too long ago, maybe 3 years ago, where once things get really tough, really bad, you get into COVID and you got to be around somebody for 24/7, stuff like that. You got to really dig into your word. Like, Lord, if I don't start acting with some goodness and some kindness, it's probably going to be over if you don't save us. So like buckling down, communicating properly, arguing fair, and learning how to come into this thing with kindness and like love and compassion, towards her from a husband standpoint. Because he said, what did Paul say? He said, treat her as yourself. Am I gonna be yelling at myself like doing all this? No. Like, so why are you doing it to the one you're supposed to be loving as the weaker vessel? And of course not, weaker in weaker sense, because they smarter than us most of the time. But weaker as in like your partner, your helpmeet. So that was the part for me, like learning from the beginning and failing a lot at composure and communicating properly. And learning that, most of that stuff didn't matter, because I honestly, I can't even remember 99% of the stuff we argued about.
It's true.
Yeah.
Wow, Josh, that's so good that you're still young to be able to recognize that about yourself, and whether it was COVID that pushed you into that or not, you're able to recognize that about yourself and get into the word and see how you were treating her and made a switch. Because if you want your marriage to continue, then you knew you had to start treating her with the words from the word. So kudos to you for that. But really quick, this wet feet coming out the shower.
You want to talk to her about it? Is that what you want to talk to her about it?
Just real quick, because I'm trying to wrap my head around. I'm thinking about how we get out the shower. Now there's a rug on the floor in the
That rug
shower.
better not be wet either, Tanya.
Huh?
That rug better not be wet either. I hope that's not where you're going.
The rug. That's what I'm saying. That's how
you better
So how
balance
you tie your feet before you get out?
one foot balance. Wipe one foot off. Step out the shower. Balance on the other foot. Wipe that foot off so that the rug is dry.
I don't believe that, Misha. Misha, I don't believe that.
Misha, was it that bad?
Was it that bad?
Look, we are all on a journey, right? We are all on a journey. The woman that I was at 22 is not the woman that I am at 38. As a matter of fact, I don't even consider myself a woman at 22. I'm just a girl out here. You know, I have a very type A personality. I am the oldest child and the only girl out of my siblings. So I was used to having things done a certain way or my way. So that was a big adjustment for me, you know, like giving up some of that selfishness of like being the only girl, and you get treated a certain way in your family when you have brothers and you get to kind of just like, I don't have to share stuff with people because it's mine, you know, so having to like adjust to that. And for me too, just learning, you know, that my husband is a human being and that he's not always going to get things right. And we didn't grow up the same way. Like he grew up in a house full of boys. I don't know what that's like. You know what I'm saying? So his background and my background met at a time where we were young and I didn't have much understanding of things. I'm much more relaxed, I think, about those things now.
I still don't do it though. You think I'm crossing the line?
Balance is on point.
Yeah, my balance is perfect.
Yeah.
We've had some of those challenges, not the same thing, but we've had some of those challenges early on. Yeah. And we had to work through those challenges as well.
I would say for me, I think we had this like recurring argument. I want to say from like year 1 to maybe like year 12. That's a long time to like be arguing. And then you have like little things in between there that come up. But for me, it was, I just really felt like my husband was not the protector that I needed him to be, or the advocate that I needed him to be, when it came to particularly dealing with like complicated familial dynamics and me feeling like in the beginning I was not a great communicator of my feelings because that just wasn't something that I was well versed in. So as opposed to being able to say like, hey, this is happening and this is how I feel, I would just shut down and I would internalize things. That's not healthy, but that's just how it was for me. But all the while I would be experiencing like these, you know, interactions sometimes with, you know, our loved ones and things of that nature. And I felt like he was always very neutral. And I didn't want him to be neutral. I wanted him to be on my side. And I felt like he really struggled, or we didn't have an understanding of what that was supposed to look like for our relationship. And so that was a battle for many years because I'm like, this is happening. Why don't you say anything? And he's always like trying to step back and see the big picture. But I'm like, I don't want you to see the big picture. I want you to see things from my perspective so I can have peace about things. So that was an area that, you know, we really had to grow in, especially me, you know, as a wife, because one of the things that I didn't have a clear understanding of when we were young was like, the importance of like being able to step back and fervently pray for my spouse, as opposed to like coming to him with all of my issues like he's God. I, that wasn't helpful. That didn't work. But that was all that I knew. Like, this is my problem. I need you to solve it. Over time, I've learned how to take a step back and realize that I can't change him. I can't change him. I can't change other people. The only person that I can work on is myself. But, still going through those complicated relationship dynamics and feeling like your husband isn't showing up for you as you felt like a husband should really bothered me. And I think too, I sometimes wrongfully compared him to my own father. And so some of the things that I saw my dad do, I expected him to do. But, now that I'm older, I'm like, well, my dad is my dad and you are you, like you're your own person. And I had to learn how to accept my husband for who he is, but also give him room to grow as a man, because we really got married very young. And as much as he got to see from his dad, as a leader, there was just some things that we dealt with that other people didn't have to deal with before, especially me, because when you're marrying somebody who essentially becomes like a celebrity in some ways, there's no blueprint for that. And so people they're focused more on the celebrity than you. And so you're stuck as the wife trying to figure out how to navigate some of these things. Like, people talk to you crazy, and then he's just like, well, they didn't mean it, or, it gets dismissed. And so I'm stuck dealing with like all these very intense emotions and frustrations. And back then I could not let stuff go. I would let it fester. I didn't communicate. And sometimes he would expect me to communicate with other people. And I'm just like, wait, that's your job. You should be doing that. So there was just this tension over the years, just like this circular like conversation, but it couldn't really be a conversation because there's too much emotion behind it. So it becomes like argument after argument after argument until you just get tired. You just get tired and you make a decision like, like he said earlier, I'm not going to argue with you anymore. If this is how you want to show up, this is fine. I'm just going to go over here and do what I'm supposed to do. But it took a really long time for me to like really make peace with like how God wired him and with my role as a wife.
Yeah. That's good. Those challenges, man, in the early days, they're tough, man, because it's like two individuals from two different worlds, two different personalities, right? That's kind of all that stuff is built in your DNA, and then when you come together, you're living together, and you start to learn stuff about one another, right? That you just don't normally see from a day to day in your dating life. When you start living together, a lot of stuff kind of comes to the surface and you got to deal with it, no matter what it is. So tell me this, y'all got married early. Why though? Why did y'all get married? Was it pressure from maybe, Misha's dad, say, hey, you're not going to date my wife, my daughter for this long and just not, make her an honest woman? Or did you just feel like we just in love? Let's do it. Why get married so early? Because you guys did. And for some, some people have gotten married probably earlier than you did. And, but still in that early 20s, 21, 22 years old, that's still kind of early. So what made you pop the question, I'm assuming, Josh, so early?
Yeah, for me, it was two things. Like being at school, playing college ball and everything. And Misha, the way she was different than a lot of the girls. So she was kind of set apart, and she had been already set apart since high school, like she was probably the only girl I ever dated. It's crazy, right? She's the only girl I think I ever dated. And high school, college, she was set apart already. So that was one. And after college, I knew I was going overseas. And it was like, if we don't make this happen, what are the chances of us staying together? Yeah, we might miss our moment. And, so, and then it was finally the way what I saw. Like my parents, 19 and 20, got married young. you don't know about all the challenges that they go through, but you're like, oh man, they've been married for 45 years. I love that. They cool. They chilling, like living good. Her parents have been married for 20 some years at the time that we met. So that's what we both saw. So she was set apart. And my mom tells this story all the time. When I was 15, like, I feel like I was like, I was like Daniel. I was like a young Christian. Like I was trying to be all saved and stuff. So I prayed for Misha when I was like 15 years old. I said, I want a girl. I don't want to be dating around. I just want a girl, Christian young lady. And I wouldn't date none of them girls that was in the school. And then she came.
Gosh, I hope they don't see this.
Oh, they know we're not. We 20 years down the road now. We 20 years down the road. She came out of nowhere. Like she came out of nowhere. She wasn't even at the school I was at. Her parents moved 5 houses down from where I lived. 5 houses down. We grew up 5 houses apart. I would see her on the bus, didn't even know who she was. And then one day, didn't even know who you were. And one of my homies, we was on the bus, and I saw Misha get on the bus. I was like, yo, bro, who is that? And he was like, that's Misha. That's Brittany's cousin, and Brittany's her cousin that used to play ball, so I knew Brittany. Mm-hmm. So long story short, those are really the reasons. Like from the beginning, I prayed for her. The Lord brought her. Didn't even see it coming. Our parents kind of, we were raised that way, and that's why ultimately we decided. I feel like we would have missed our moment if I would have went overseas and she would have stayed home. She would have been this big time reporter. I was over there hooping. Probably would have never talked to each other again, possibly.
But I want to interject on that for a minute, because identity is something that I really have struggled with over the last 16 years that we've been married. Because for a long time, I mourned that career that I could have had. And I mourned that life that I could have had. When I was an intern, I think it was in my second internship at some TV station. I can't remember which, but I grew up big family, I got like 1,200 cousins and all this stuff. And, you grow up seeing like people marry for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Like that's really all that we knew from our backgrounds. And when I was at my second internship, most of the people had been so career driven. They didn't have kids. They were my age when I was 21 maybe. And so they're 38, they're 40. And they were like, talking about wanting a family, but, fearing that it was too late for them to, either get married or to have those kids because they were so focused on their career. I think I was interning in like a top 25 market at the time. So that's pretty big, at that time, for television. And so I was like, man, I don't know, like that's scary, like the prospect of working so hard for your career, but then you're sacrificing something else. It's like nobody can have it all. And so we had this conversation, like when we were young, like, is this something that we really want? Because if I go this way and you go that way, like, will we come back together? And that was a real question. And so we weren't sure that we would, because we didn't have any experience in, being overseas or any of our family, and so we decided that, if that was something that we were going to pursue, that we were going to do it while we could. Because we wanted, we wanted family.
For sure. Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was going to ask if there was any resentment towards that, because you kind of gave up what you wanted to pursue in the direction you wanted to go for your career, to follow Josh and just kind of be, in his corner for his career. So I was wondering if there was any resentment, about that you kind of dealt with, personally, for just not being able to pursue your career maybe earlier when you wanted it to.
Absolutely. I feel like I remember talking to you about that when I think we lived in Germany at the time. And I think I finally was able to like articulate, gosh, how long have we been doing it by the time we were in Germany? Like 8 years.
Yeah.
8 years or so we had been living, overseas for most of our life, or for most of our married life. And I was feeling that sting, because he's he's traveling all the time and he's getting his passport stamped. And, you know, not to say that it's all glamorous, because it's not, but, you know, like I'm at home with a toddler and a new baby, and, you know, you just feel like the ship has sailed for you. And so I did feel some resentment because, like, initially I did want to keep my family together. I said that, you know, before we even had kids, like, I lived in Dallas and he lived in Latvia. And I was like, I didn't really get married to live like this. Like, we're not even together. So, you know, we talked to some counsel that we had at the time, and everybody's like, keep your family together. And so I made that decision, you know, with wisdoms at the time, and I did it. But then I'm like, I feel like I got the short end of the stick because, you know, I'm at home, I'm raising kids, and I'm just navigating this life by myself because nobody ever lived overseas, and it's hard, you know, being so far away from your family and having to try to find community in places. And then you see your husband like excelling in his career and, you know, getting all this recognition, because he was amazing. He was, and he deserved all of that. But at the time, it was a hard pill to swallow. And then it felt like everybody was on the Josh Mail bandwagon, you know, and I'm just here. And so, and I knew that I had more potential than that. But what I didn't have and what would have been helpful was somebody to like help me to frame that in a Christ-centered way. Because like, I was reading the Beatitudes the other day. I think they're in Matthew, was it 5, right? And Jesus is talking about, you know, blessed is the poor in spirit, for they will inherit the kingdom. And with every, you know, every beatitude, it's about the kingdom. And even in our marriage, like there should be this kingdom mindset that, you know, the seeds that you're sowing in these seasons of your marriage are for God's glory and not yours. And so when I was younger, I think I was so focused on, you know, I could only see his glory, and I could only see people's attachment to his glory, that I could not recognize that God put us together with intention for a reason, for his glory and not either one of ours. And I think had I known that earlier and been more secure in my Christ identity, that I would have been able to navigate those seasons. And sometimes not lately, but I used to regret that I did not handle those seasons well, because there was so much resentment and there was so much frustration, and I feel like I had to take it out on somebody, and sometimes it was him. um but it was just for lack of understanding that, you know, marriage is an opportunity for God to be at the forefront, for him to refine our character, for him to make us look more like him. And, you know, now with that wisdom, that's kind of how I try to operate, because I still haven't been able to have the career that I thought I would have, because life be lifing. Life be lifing. And you go here, you go up one level, and it knocks you down two. And I'm just like, you have to surrender, you know, all that you thought would be, so that you could do whatever Christ has called you to do in that season. And so for me right now, it is to serve him as his wife and to take care of our children. That's just something that I wish I had been able to grasp earlier on, but better late than never. But yeah, that, to answer your question, I struggle with that, but it's not a struggle anymore. Praise the Lord.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
You guys have a lot of wisdom for such a young couple. A lot of wisdom. I want to ask though, now you, and I was going to ask this question, you answered it already, about have you been able to work in that career that you wanted to do? Maybe not now, but do you still hold on to that one day that you'll be able to do that?
So I started my own company. My parents were entrepreneurs growing up. And so I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit, just watching them, watching my dad kind of be a trailblazer in his own right. in the industry that he was in many years ago, and to see them like own buildings and do those kind of things, it like always inspired me in that way. And so I started my own business. I think it was it during the pandemic?
2020.
Yeah, I started my own copywriting and copy editing business during the pandemic. And starting a business during the pandemic, it can be like the best of things and the worst of things. But I did do that, and I had that for a little while. But what I didn't have, I think, was a solid business plan. And so after we like transitioned to home, and we're seeing, kind of all of the challenges of being a business owner, being a kind of work at home mom, while he was away still, in his career, I had to let that go. And not only did I have to let it go, I was just dealing with a lot emotionally while I was kind of trying to be an entrepreneur as well. I think it was at the time I started like having suicidal ideations and things of that nature. So, and I think a lot of it stemmed again from that challenge of identity. For a long time, we lived our life a certain way, and I don't do well with change. I don't like change. So like having to transition from, living your life this way, making this kind of money, to, everything kind of being flipped upside down because of things outside of our control, that was hard for me. And so I didn't even have the mental capacity to like run a business anymore. Because, for a whole myriad of reasons, I didn't want to be here anymore. And so my business closed, and I went into this intense season of suffering, which, I now know that, that's just a part of the walk with Christ. Like, you're going to endure suffering, because that, like, we have to fellowship in his suffering to really understand like the sacrifice that he made for us. And so I had that, and then I went through this intense season of suffering, only for God to kind of show me. I feel like he keeps showing me like my ways are higher, my plans are not your plans. And so stop trying to do your own thing, because ultimately like you're living for me and not for yourself. So I don't even try anymore to have that career, because if there is something that the Lord wants me to do, I believe that just as I've seen in the last 3 years, like he will guide me to that. I did try, but it didn't work out. And that was a low for me for a long time. But, I look at that journey and I have gratitude for what I was able to accomplish, and, how I was able to interact with people and help them to see some of their stories come to life. But now I'm just kind of focused on my family and doing things God's way, because I'm tired. I'm trying to do it my way.
So when you say copyright, were you helping people write books?
Yep. I was doing writing for different companies, and I was helping people to edit their story. So there's a lot of books out there that might have my name as a copy editor.
Yeah.
Another conversation. Josh, how did you support her through her season of suicide ideation? Did you know?
I didn't know for a little while. Yep. I knew she was in a place, not a good place, but I didn't know it was that bad. But when I did find out, first off, I feel like I was very, I was sad. You don't want your better half to, have those thoughts. But the only thing I tried to do is, I didn't even try to encourage. I don't know how you encourage in that sense when it's like you can make it, you can do it. No, it's more like, I'm here with you. Whatever you need, I got you. More like that, because I think one thing she's taught me over the years is like, when somebody's going through a lot, like saying, come on, you got this, you can do it, you're tougher than that. That doesn't work. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. You need to be in the muck with them, especially if this is your partner. You need to be in the muck with them. Like, if she having these thoughts, you might as well be having these thoughts. Girl, I'm with you. Like, whatever you need, I got you. we gonna figure this out. Like, that's kind of where I was with it. And really, I don't know if she, like, going more into detail about how she got out, she really got into the word, like continually preaching the word to herself and encouraging herself in the Lord, until I think over time it was like, I'm not there anymore. I'm not in that place that I was. And people think it's a joke, like, oh, if I just keep repeating the same thing and I keep just, faith coming by hearing, hearing by the word of God, that's not really real. Nah, I think it's got some, yeah. It's a real thing when you can really buckle down and focus on the Lord. He said, if you abide in me, I abide in you. Those who keep their mind on me are in perfect peace. Like, those are things that are principles that are true. It's not like a fake thing. If you can do this, he promises that you'll be in peace. So that's all I could do in a situation like that, Tanya.
Yeah, that was good. That saying, misery loves company. Sometimes when we are miserable, we need company, right? And you were that. So sometimes that's not a bad thing, that misery loved company, because you were able to be her company in a time that she was feeling miserable. And it just touches my heart, because we don't like to see our loved ones suffer, but you got out of it, Misha. Praise the Lord for that. And you stayed in his word. You didn't turn to, I don't guess, something else, but to get out of what you were going to, but his word. And his word is true. And his word would get us out of everything and out of anything. So, and we're glad to see you on the other side of that.
You know what, Tanya? I would say, and I think we talk about this all the time, the first 12 years of our marriage, it was like, it wasn't stalled or anything, but it was a good period because you make good money. But marriage wise, it was like, I wouldn't even say going through the motions, but we were still growing like we are now. But once we got home in 2021 to now, I think we've grown more in the last 3 years than we did in 12 years, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And going through those really put us on not that we're on some type of level, not that we've made it or anything, but like, when you go through stuff like that, it really is a game changer when it comes to if you can make it through those things as a marriage and even as individuals.
And that's the key. If you can make it through, right? Some people give up so early. You can be married 30 years and only 10 of those years were the best years out of those 30 years. It's like they say, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We just have to be able to be willing to work through those hard times, and it's not that when you work through those hard times and you have 5 good years, it's not that the 6th year ain't, it can be something else, and you just got to work through that. Everything, we just got to keep working through. A lot of the stuff that you guys mentioned here today, well, a lot of the things that we went through, well, a lot of things that other couples we know went through, we all go through the same thing. It's just on how we get through it with each other. And I'm so happy to hear that you stuck with her, through that time of suicide ideation, Josh, because not a lot of people do that. Not a lot of husbands do that. Not a lot of wives do that. They take flight. They go off into something else and say, I'm going to let you deal with this. I'm going to let you get yourself together and take off. But man, you guys are doing the thing with God. So.
Amen.
This episode of Couples Connect is sponsored by Just Like You Hair Care System. Introducing Just Like You Hair Care, the perfect solution for healthy, growing, moisturized hair. Our hair growth oil is enriched with essential oils like calendula, lavender, rose petals, also enriched with nourishing jojoba oil, promoting growth, reducing breakage, and restoring scalp health. Follow with our moisturizing leave-in cream to lock in hydration for smooth, manageable hair all day long. So you get to feel confident with thicker, stronger, and deeply moisturized hair. Our products are made with all natural ingredients and is designed for women or anyone who want a holistic approach to hair wellness. Shop today and experience the transformation. just like your hair care, your confidence, and your journey. The link is in the show notes. Now back to the episode.
Thank you. We pushing through. We got some still got a lot of growing to do, but we really have tried to make progress. I feel like every time you reach a level, like we were just talking again, we always talk about it. Like, man, we've been vibing in our marriage, and then 6 months ago, boom, devil is like, y'all good. Let me hit your daughter. Bang.
Yeah. Talk about that.
Again.
Can I just tell y'all the roller coaster that the last 4 years of my life have been? So Josh retired from basketball unexpectedly. It wasn't our plan. Like, we actually had planned for him to play for another year or two, another season after that. So in August of 2021, the kids and I
went first.
You went, but this was the first. I'm always very prepared. Like, having to travel for many years, like, you become adept at preparation. So this year, though, I had sent stuff ahead. I don't usually do that. I just bring it with me and the kids when we come. But I sent stuff ahead. I was like, I'm going to go ahead and just, let you get the apartment together, yada, yada. My kids both get COVID in August.
3 days before we were supposed to leave.
3 days. And so the team is like, he's like, hey, I can't leave my family. They're like, you need to get to training camp. You ain't got COVID. And so I'm like, are you kidding me? So he leaves me with 2 kids who are still testing positive for COVID. And then September comes and our daughter she's testing negative. It took her, oh my God, maybe close to a month to test negative for COVID. And then she's having another health challenge. And I don't know what's wrong with the baby. She's just, every night she's crying in pain. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. At that point, I'm taking her to like every hospital, every pediatric, place that I can think of in the Metroplex to find out what's wrong with her. And we're not getting any answers. And so one day I took her to an urgent care in our city, and the doctor told me that she has strep. And, based on her symptoms, they were atypical symptoms for strep, which is why other doctors couldn't figure it out. So after she gets COVID, she gets strep. And so this is like a long, almost 2-month period of her being sick. And we're just like, oh my God. So I'm exhausted, right? He's gone. I'm here with a young, first grade age kiddo and a toddler. And my parents don't live here at the time. We don't know anybody because my kids weren't in school. We've been living overseas the whole time. So even though like we've maintained a home for the last, I don't know how many years, I've lost count, 10 years or so, 15. No, we bought our first house in 2015. So 10 years, we didn't have community.
And only 1 year in Miralagos where we are.
Right. So all that to say, at one point I made a decision that we weren't going to come because I'm exhausted. I feel like she keeps having these challenges. We're not going to get the help that we need overseas because it's just different. Like it's great living over there, but sometimes the language barrier and the understanding of health and all those things can be challenging. And I didn't want to put her in a situation where she couldn't get the support that she needed. So I decided that I was going to enroll her in school and stay home. And so, after, going through that and her still continuously having health challenges and, I'm crying in the middle of the night, like, babe, this is hard. Like, she's like, I can't figure out what's going on with her. I'm doing everything that I can to help her get better and nothing is working. He made the difficult decision to retire. So that's kind of how we got into this space. But our daughter continued to have health challenges over the years. From that point up until
6 months
the
ago.
last sickness 6 months ago. So like, we've been on this roller coaster, of like figuring things out, being okay, not okay, figuring things out, being okay, not okay. And so she got sick in September.
Yeah, 6 months ago. So regular day. She had just came from practice or something.
It was a meeting.
It was a meeting. Oh, okay. Went to sleep that night, but she was not feeling well and started having like involuntary shakes. stuff like that. And it went on for an hour or two. We were like, okay, let's see if she gets better. Didn't happen. Rushed her to the hospital. And found out basically she was diagnosed with something called FND, like functional neurological disorder. Basically, brain and body connection is mixed up. So one day you can wake up, your arm could be limp. Another day you could not be walking. She went from September 30th to October 5th, not being able to.
It was 9 days.
9 days, October 7th or 8th, not being able to walk. So that whole thing, that'll get you. You know, we are pretty strong and everything, but to see
I'm not that strong.
Well, okay. But to see your seed have challenges like that, it'd take you out. So emotionally, it was tough, and we were pretty much a wreck. Like, I've never cried so much in my life. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Most of the time I'm optimistic, everything. But when you see something like that, it doesn't matter. All that optimistic stuff goes out the window. You're like, that's my baby, right? So we communicated the best way we could, helped our baby girl. We really wasn't focusing on ourselves for like 30 days straight. It was emotionally our baby girl, Maya. And October 31st, 30 days after all of this happened, we were stressed. We were tired. And I asked a dumb question, I think. I asked a pretty dumb question. I don't remember what the question was. It was not a good question at the time. We was on our way to take Maya to the doctor or something.
To the hospital for I don't know how many times.
To the hospital for like the 10th, like literally 6th time in 1 month. And I was pumping gas or something, and I asked a dumb question. She was like, why would you ask me that? It wasn't even that bad. It was like, why would you, like, no. But I was already irritated. Everything was emotional. And I literally threw a hissy fit at her in the parking, in public, outside,
where people could see
in front of people. Like, why are you talking to me like this? Blah, blah, blah. Like, all in her face. And I was like, so all of that happened, right? This is 6 months ago. This is telling y'all, like, he ain't done with us yet, right? So, and so all of that happened. We take her. We're not talking to each other. Silence. And we go. And as we're figuring all this out, or as like the day is going by, I'm thinking to myself, like, did you really just do that? You really just basically embarrassed most of all yourself, but your family. Like, it's like a guy just started asking me questions. Like, did you love her as yourself right there? Like, was that kindness? Like, no, Jesus. Was that goodness? No, Jesus. Was that self-control? No, Jesus. And once I went through everything and he was talking to me and it was like, you messed up pretty bad there. I went back and we talked, and over time, I think it took a couple of days for us to kind of reconcile. But I think that was a huge, another one of them devil trying to tear you apart. But what he meant for evil, God turned around for good, because I believe that was a turning part, like another test and another victory for us. Like, I already, when it comes to her, like, you ever had that one person that is the only person that can get to you, only person that can really get under your skin? She is that person. But now I'm learning, she can get under my skin, but as the leader, as a Christ follower, as trying to be the priest for your home, you have to be the one that has the most self-control. You have to be the one that can calm the storm, especially in times like that. And I was not that person. So I feel like that was definitely a test for me, for our relationship, that now that we're looking back and we're over the hump of, it's like, yeah, he tried to use your daughter to get between y'all, but like, he lost again. So it's very rewarding to be on the other side of that.
What do you guys feel like is the most area that each of you have grown individually within your marriage?
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Go ahead.
For me, it's definitely for sure like my attitude / temper when it's like a mixture of things: attitude, temper, and like pridefulness. And you can just say temper and pridefulness. So the temper thing, anytime we get into a conversation, like it's like being on the basketball court. I used to have many conversations with my teammates, like we all in each other's face, like, no, you need to be, but it's like, oh, we just basketball players. So at the end of the day, it's like, we all good. But that's not the way you can be with your wife. That's not the way you should be with your wife. So understanding this is not basketball. This is the word of God. This is Ephesians 5:28. Love her as yourself. Galatians 5. This is kindness, love. It's not basketball. So you need to treat her and act accordingly in that way all the time, no matter what circumstances may be around you. You need to act accordingly. So that was one, temper. And then two was pridefulness. Like in the midst of these conversations that we're having, not trying to win. Like my goal is to lose now. My goal is literally to lose. I don't care if you're right. I don't care about anything. I just want to make sure that we have an understanding and that we're on the same page. And I think we both can say that and attest to that. Like it's not about winning anymore. Like if I was wrong, I'd be happy to say, my fault, boo. Like let's keep this light. What I need to do, I need to do that. Let me go do it real quick. My bad. I really messed up on that one. Let me wipe my feet off. Hold on. Let me go clean the floor up. Let me go wipe my feet off in the shower.
Let me balance that one leg.
Yeah, let's balance. Let me get back to the basics.
Yeah. Get back to the basics.
So yeah, temper and pridefulness, like dying to myself every day when it comes to her and those children.
For me,
how about you, Misha?
For me, I would say communication. I'm a much better communicator than I was at the beginning. Even though we don't process things the same, my husband is very much, let's talk about this right now. And I'm not like that. I'm just not wired that way. But as opposed to shutting down, I will communicate with him and say like, hey, I need a minute to work through this. And I'm gonna give you your time. I'm gonna communicate with you when I'm able to, but not right now. And I think also just maturity, just as a woman and as a wife, we can have little disagreements, and I'm like, okay, well, we gonna still go out to dinner, or we gonna still go, take this walk, and we can talk about that later. Everything's not as intense. Like everything used to feel so intense to me, and it felt, like I couldn't move past it. But I can move past things. I let stuff go a lot more than I used to. And I'm very proud of that because there's so much tension that you hold in your body when you can't let stuff go, when you let things fester with your spouse. And so I'm happy that the Lord is continuing to mature me as a wife because I think our home is a lot more peaceful now, and there's no pressure, for him. And I will say too, patience. I'm hardwired to just toward impatience. That's just I like things to be done a certain way and in a certain time period. But I now understand, humanity, and I've learned how to adjust my expectations of my husband, of my children, of myself. I think I'm a constant work in progress with that. But
yeah, life will do that to you.
Yeah,
like with what Maya went through just now, like
it's going through.
You have to have an amazing amount of patience. Yeah. Like being a husband and a wife, you have to learn how to have an amazing amount of patience. But I think that we're still on that journey, but we've grown a lot from July 25th, 2009.
Yeah.
We've grown a bit.
Yeah.
Tell me this, man, because I know, you guys say that you guys started pretty early, and I know that was kind of the gist of this conversation, like getting married real early and some of the challenges you guys have gone through in those earlier days. And just for clarity for me to understand, so y'all started dating pretty early. So were y'all like were y'all each other's first and only?
Yes. As far as I
really
know, right? We 62 years in. That's kind of late, but yeah.
Right. Wow. That's crazy because I I always wondered what that would be like. Well, not for me, not to like actually experience it, but I love that y'all did. You know what I'm saying? Because there's
funny story.
Let's go, Josh. Let's go. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Talking about the first time, right? So, young Christian man trying to be strong, 22 years old. So honeymoon, hotel time, we chilling. We like, it's about to go down. It's about to go down. Like I seen the movies, it's about to go down. I seen the movies, about to go down. So we get in there and it is not working. It's like, nope. You don't realize, like, we all knew here, like, it's going to take some time, some TLC. It's going to take some TLC to get in there, right? So, so it's going to take TLC. So our first night, we didn't even sleep together. It didn't happen. No consummation there, right? So I wake up the next morning and you talk about...
Wait. So... I got the menu, we at the nice hotel downtown Chicago off like Magnificent Mile or something like that. And I get the menu, I'm like, babe, what you want for breakfast? Like, they got waffles, they got pancakes, like, they got all the things. And Josh is over there like...
Yo, Tanya, Kim, I'm in the corner like this.
He's sitting there.
Like, I am not a real man. I have failed the male race. Like, I can never tell anybody else about this. And it goes on like this for a minute. And she's like, what's wrong, babe? I'm like, nothing, I'm cool.
I'm eating my pancakes.
She over here smashing, like,
enjoying my honeymoon.
I'm over in the corner, like, can't eat. I'm anxious. I'm like, how is she doing this? I didn't know. Oh my goodness, I was done. So I finally tell her, and she like, comforts me, like, it's gonna get good. So we hop in a little later that day, and it all works out. And I was like, I dodged the bullet there.
I'm missing something. I think I'm missing something. Okay, so why were you in your feelings? You couldn't get in. Am I missing something?
Why? Tell me what you doing.
But she was a virgin, so that's...
I thought it was like the movies, Tanya.
Oh, okay. You thought
every movie that I have seen, it works out. It go into something. Like,
I got you. It ain't the movies. All right, I got you.
A false sense of reality, right?
That's the only thing I do.
Because I'm like, that's normal. You can't get in. It's locked.
Yes, but that's the other thing that you just don't know, because like nobody could tell us. I think we were the first ones that I knew of that got married that way. So like nobody could tell us how to prepare for that.
It's so taboo, it's taboo too. It's like finances in our community and all that. Like it's taboo. So you're not talking about that like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was in blinded. But
that's really good that you mentioned that like that, because that whole false sense of reality, right, of watching the movies and what you see in the movies, you thought that's how it was going to flow, and I think it's the same way even now, not just in the movies, not what we see on TV, but it's also in social media, right? This false reality of you thinking that's how things really are. And in real life, it's just not, man. It just doesn't flow like that. People, they live in whatever life they want to live on social media, right? But it ain't the real deal. It ain't real life, right? So, but man, I'm glad y'all. Hey, Josh, I'm glad you made it work out, my brother.
We all good now, Ken. We all good. I'm a pro now, bro.
So after 25 years, Josh.
No, that's good, man. That's good. So tell me this: early on, man, what was some of what was probably, besides making Josh balance one leg, wipe his feet. What was some of the main challenges you think you guys really dealt with early on? I know Josh mentioned some of the pride, some of the different things like that. But what are something that that you guys can think of that was like, man, early on we used to deal with like what? Early on, kids, we've kind of grown now. We're a little bit mature. We're learning, right? But early on, it was tough because we were still kids, trying to figure stuff out.
I would say,
Go ahead.
I'm not gonna tell you our families that weren't doing this. I would say, for real, like boundaries and in-laws. That was a really big issue for us. So I don't like to keep referencing his career, but it was a big part of our marriage. And because he, like when you have a kid who is gifted or they go to college and you have to manage as parents, like their collegiate career, whatever it is that they do, whether it's, there's some sort of artist or they play basketball, whatever have you, like the parents can be very hands on. And his family struggled with like letting him be a man and letting him have a wife. And so for me, I would be frustrated because I'm like, yo, like we can figure this out. If it's a contract, they don't have to know about it. Like we went to college, we're educated, we know what to do. But like they had a really hard time, not just for the first year, for many years. And then I think for me too, the way that I was treated was a big problem. Because his trajectory made people feel like they were entitled to do certain things. Like somebody set me down before he asked me to marry him. Our parents are cool with it. But somebody set me down and was like, so what's your intention as his, future wife, and like questioning me. We've been together for 6 years at that point. But it was very disrespectful. They didn't consult my family or his family, but they felt like, and it was one of his relatives, that they could do that to me because of the path that he was going, as if I'm just like some random girl who hasn't been here, and I didn't really understand a lot of it because I was a kid. I was young. He didn't either. But at the same time, it causes frustration. And then like when you try to talk to more seasoned people about it, they're like, oh, this person probably just did that because they're, they play this role in his life. It's dismissed like it doesn't matter. So now I'm going through marriage like a chip on my shoulder because I feel like nobody gets me and your family don't know how to act. So that was, an area where we clashed a lot. And that was where he also was neutral a lot. And I was like, you can't be neutral. So there's this one, I won't say it was an argument, but this area that we disagree with or disagree sometimes is that he always likes to play devil's advocate. And I don't like to debate. Not with him anyway. And I don't like to get into all that devil's advocate stuff. Like, just say what you mean and mean what you say. Like, I don't like do that with your homies. Like, don't do that with me. But he very much kind of always played the devil's advocate in those type of situations. And it left me feeling isolated and alone. Like I'm here and I'm the only person who feels like all this negativity toward your family because they're meddling or they're being nosy or they're doing this, that, and the third because they feel like they can.
Yeah. And I was just naive as they came. Like I didn't understand. Like
it was a lot.
When you go through some things though, you really realize like that's one thing Pops, my dad did say, like always make sure, but I didn't understand it until later on. Like make sure you're on her side. Like I don't care what I say.
Felt that way.
Like your mama say, what your nephews, cousins, aunties say, you be on her side. If she's blatantly wrong, you be on her side and you tell her you okay, all right, you was tripping in the background, like when y'all talking about nobody else. But you make sure you do that. But it took a while for me to learn that.
A long time, like almost 12 years.
Yeah, it took a while. It really did. It's because you just
because he's a nice guy. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
And I'm the only person that makes him mad. So you have that. I'm the only person that makes him mad. Nothing else matters to him, but everybody else is pissing me off. But that doesn't matter to him. It only matters to me. So there's this disconnect, right? Of like, oh, you can get mad at me. You can punch walls with me, but you can't like put your family in their place or, like stand up for me the way that I thought a husband was supposed to.
That's because it was a lot too. Honestly,
it was always
something. It was cousins, aunties, uncles, brothers. I'm like,
the disrespect was very
I just
grand.
got married at 20. I'm 22. I just want to go play ball and like
people be
somebody up and shoot a jump shot.
That's the part, that what's one of the reasons why I now am a proponent of like don't get married when you're young, because there's just so much life that you rob yourself of, so many experiences that you rob yourself of. I think had I been able to like venture out on my own and like just become, it's not secure within myself because that means I'm living without Christ, but just have my own experiences, I don't think I would have been so fixated on the stuff that was coming at me. But because like my life was so wrapped up in his at a young age, I let that stuff kind of strangle me for a long time. Go ahead.
I would say I'm not a proponent. I wouldn't go as far. That's like really.
I'm telling my kids don't do it.
Leftish, like left wingish. I'm more in the middle, like I'm mostly am. But I would say our circumstance was so unique.
Yeah.
Like think about it. I know people that get married when they're 22, but they're at home in the United States. He is a financial advisor. She works for this, and they get married and make it work because they have their separate things. Our situation was very unique. So I wouldn't say don't get married young, but I would say know what situation you're in and what circumstance you're in. If you're going to go overseas and take your wife over there and with no experience, no, don't get married. I would say that. Mm-hmm. But just know your situation. Yeah. I would say that most of all.
I kind of agree with Misha. I also feel where you're coming from too, Josh, because of the experience that you guys have. But I got young too, and I had this conversation with Kevin before. We've had it many times. And that, like you said, the experiences, you don't regret where you are now. Like I don't regret where I am because we have, beautiful kids, a beautiful life, a great marriage. But you do wish you would have, because I came straight from my grandmother's house to live with Kevin and his grandmother. So I didn't experience the apartment or finding out who I am before getting married. Those kinds of things. Like we're telling our kids now, have your own stuff before you get into a marriage. Have your own money, your own apartment, experience life before you get married. So I agree with you, Misha. But I do understand what you're saying too, Josh, is to understand the circumstances.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was going to say, I think that helps you to have a better marriage. I think when you have had your own experiences, you can come together and create something beautiful. Not to say that the Lord hasn't allowed us, like he's redeemed all of that, I feel. We've seen the fruit of our labor at year 16. However, I do think that it allows you to just bring, value into the relationship that you can't bring. And I think you can avoid some pitfalls. There's always going to be give and take in marriage. Like there's going to be seasons where somebody got to stay home with the kids or somebody's got to give up something. Like that's just the circle of life. However, when one person gives up so much, it can cause a lot of challenges. And I think that those things can be avoidable if you give yourself an opportunity to live a little bit and to explore and to travel and to just have a life outside of your soon to be spouse. I think it's healthy.
And I'm gonna say this, the last part to that is that we as women, we give up a lot. We do. I'm not saying that men don't give up a lot, but we give up our last name, right? We're the one who are bearing the children. A lot of times we're the one who are home with the children and educating the kids. So we give so much of ourselves to where we feel like when we've been in our marriage for a while, we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't get a chance to experience this because I have so much responsibility. Not that our husbands don't have that responsibility, but off the back, we give up our last name. And so that comes with a lot. But, we've been in it for 25 years, almost 28 years. And I wouldn't do it again or no other way. But I would agree to both of you guys, just when you're young and you're thinking about getting married, think about having a life before before you get married. Think about that.
I can't agree more.
So,
go ahead, Ken.
No, Josh, you got it.
No, I was just going to say another thing that was challenging, not challenging, but I would encourage if you do get married young at any time, learn your partner's love language. So you're not loving them your way, you loving them their way and not the way you think they should be loved.
Amen.
True that. I was going to say, so we're, like Tanya mentioned, 25 years. We're that old couple that Misha talked about early on. I ain't gonna let it down, Misha. I ain't gonna let it down. But I'm cool with it though. I'm cool. I've accepted the fact that we're that old couple that's been married for a long time, and we going strong, so it's all good. But as we get ready to wrap up, man, because I want to be respectful of you guys' time. My last question would be, how would you describe your marriage now? We've talked about some of the things that from early on, right? Some challenges there, also some challenges in between, as even some challenges maybe that's even as of more recent. But overall, how would you describe your marriage now, real briefly, and give each one of you guys an opportunity to do that? Currently, today, where are you guys at? How would you describe it?
Simply put, I think we're in a good place. I feel like we are becoming marriage champions. With a champion, they get knocked down. Champions get knocked down. But one thing they do always is get back up. And that's one thing that we've done from day one, like even from wet feet to family problems. We have went to the Word of God. We went to some people, that we trust, and we've gotten back up. That's the only way you can make it through marriage, because you're gonna get knocked down. You will have trouble. But he said you overcome the world. He's overcome. So that means we overcome if we continue to get back up. So marriage champions.
I like it. Love it.
Like it. Mish, what's your viewpoint on that in terms of where you guys are now?
I would say in this space that we're in, I think I would call it like honest and seasoned. Honest in that we are a lot more vulnerable with each other, a lot more transparent. He was just telling me the other day, it's been a season, y'all, and I be tired, and when it comes to intimacy, like for women, it starts mentally. And he's just like, hey, I'm like, look, not tonight. I just can't. Whereas before I might try, or I might not communicate, and then I'm just doing something that my body doesn't really want to do, but I just want to please my husband. I'm just like, not tonight, sir. So in that way, for both of us, like we're a lot more honest with each other. And I think the season part is that we don't take offense to things as much as we used to. So we're able to be honest. And he's like, all right, cool. I'm just going to watch this ESPN. Right. Watch this game. And I'm going to go about my business. And same for me, because I get rejected sometimes too, because that happened. He was tired. And I'm like, hey, you want to have some fun? And he's like, how could you even think of that right now? And I'm like, okay.
It starts in the mind for us too, Ken. Right. It ain't all physical. It ain't all physical.
True that.
It's 99.9% physical.
Hello.
True that. True that. True that.
Right, Tanya. Right. When you right.
But outside of intimacy, I think we are just a lot more honest with each other, and we're just seasoned. Like we don't move in marriage the way that we used to, and I love that for us. We've come a mighty long way.
Yeah, when you've seen something happen a few times, you're like, I don't have to react like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I absolutely love it, man. Looking at you guys now to say that, this whole topic was the idea about how you guys started at an early age, 22 years old, getting married, falling in love and betting on one another. And just to kind of see now, 16 years in, the growth in both of you, right, individually and as a couple, and understanding that now, man, it's like some of the stuff that mattered when you were earlier on, it's not as big of issues, right? It's not a big deal, man, and that shows growth. That's true growth, man. When certain stuff don't bother you anymore, and you guys are both in a place of acceptance, right? And also reflection of self, right? Knowing where you need to grow, right? Not just always looking at your spouse, but these are some areas where I have grown, right? Because then I think Tanya and I, just to kind of, I didn't want to get too much into our season, but really, I think we're both in a season where we've both kind of really look inward within ourselves, right? And new areas that we needed to work on. And we've worked on that and still working on certain areas. And now we're really in a season of, I would say, and you can kind of speak to it as well. I think we're in a season of of newness, right? That's how I would describe it, of newness. And I think that newness is like, we've grown, we've learned some things, and now let's explore this newness that we've now come to the realization of, right? And for me, it's just a newness for us, man. So we're kind of embarking in some new areas. She even mentioned, I'll let her kind of say it, but it's kind of like, let's start dating again, right? Just different things like that. Because now, there's chapters, there's seasons, right? 10 years, we're different from when we first got married at 24 and 27. Then we were different now in our 30s. We were different in our 40s. And now in our early 50s, she 49, just so y'all know. She the woman to say she.
I saw her thinking it in her head.
Yeah. Right. So, right.
He told me in our 50s. I'm not in my
50s. 49 and a half, right? I'm in my early 50s, but it's a new season. So we've went through new seasons, so many times now. And I think now we're in a season where it's like, let's really come together and begin to learn each other and appreciate each other in this new season that we're in. So it's exciting, to kind of get to that place again. And I just feel like that's the season we're in for me, from my perspective. But I'm curious to know what would you say?
Yeah, I feel like we're in a season of newness especially when it comes to friendship. I think couples take for granted friendships or friendship with each other. When you have a season, when you've gone through things, your friendship is not the same when you come out of that season. And I think every time, it's like when you are every 3 months or 4 months, you go and you look at certain things for your business and, all that kind of stuff. The same thing with your relationship. You have to reflect on your friendship with one another. And I feel like for us, we're starting this new friendship, to where we are really getting to know each other, to where we are really, again, getting to know each other again, because we're so different. We're so different from last year and year before last. And so much has changed. We have evolved so much within the last year, 2 years. So we're two different individuals. And so I'm learning him. He's a lot more compassion, a lot more kindness, a lot more tender, and I'm a lot more accepting of that. And I guess I'm a lot more of something for him. But we have this friendship that we're starting, and we're on the same page with things now. We had to go through a moment of just readjusting and figuring out who we are, and doing some shadow work, and doing some blind spots, spotting those blind spots when it comes to each other. And I think that's where we are right now, and I'm excited about it too. I think we sit and talk a little bit more now. Our conversations are a little bit more than surface stuff. We go a little bit deeper when we have conversations, and we look forward to just spending more years in life together with each other, creating and building that friendship. Friendship is really big for me right now.
Yeah. And I want to just kind of disclose that in terms of where we are, even, this year being 25 years in, just to kind of maybe encourage you guys and maybe anyone else to say, hey, man, it doesn't matter how long you've been married. You're going to always still have to continue to intentionally work on yourself so you can be a better person for your spouse. I think lots of times we're always pointing the fingers, like, maybe even earlier, right? We've seen some growth in Josh. Josh said it was more of maybe getting the last word. I wanted to be proven, I'm right, this and that, right? But now the evolution of that and growing into something new, to where it's like certain things you don't even trip. It's like, hey, I don't need to get the last word. I'm looking to maybe even to lose at the fight, just to die of self, right? And that's the whole thing about marriage. It's like once you can die of yourself and put the other first, that's where the true marriage begins, right? Because I think in the beginning we're constantly, it's two different people, right? Even though we go to the altar and we try to, the idea is that we become one. We say we become one, but we're still operating as two individuals in this marriage. And that's why lots of times we still have this tug of war in the very beginning of, her spirit, my spirit, and we're, trying to still, no one wants to give. But at some point you start to realize that this tug of war, when you're supposed to be really locked in together as one, you're fighting the wrong person, right? And that's what at some point you start to realize that this is my partner, man. This is my gift. This is my, my better half. This is the woman that God's given to me. This is the man that God's given to me. And once you realize that you truly on the same team, that's when stuff starts to really click. That's when your heart begins to soften up. That's when you become a little bit more vulnerable, because like, this person has my best interest at heart. This person doesn't want to hurt me when they tell me this. This person doesn't want to really embarrass me or do anything that's going to harm me in any kind of way, because I know they got my best interest at heart. And that comes with trust. And that comes with a level of vulnerability that we just don't have that in the very early stages of our marriage, right? But once you become vulnerable with one another, and you're like, I'm naked, right? Like you dance, like man, you just vulnerable to where I have nothing to hide. And when you can come before each other naked and vulnerable, that's when you can really start to go into a deeper level in your marriage. And I think that's pretty much where we're at right now. So, but anyway, again, man, we just appreciate your story, guys, man, and everything you've shared on the podcast with us. We know it took a minute, to try to get this thing going. This was our second attempt. And I think, man, it was worth the wait, and I appreciate your heart that you guys have, just kind of given on to us today about your journey from early on and where you are now. We're going to continue to pray for you guys, you and your family, with, baby girl and everything, your whole entire family, because, man, y'all really touched my heart on just some of the things you guys have shared. And I know what it's like. I know what it's like, man, what you guys are going through. From Josh's perspective, I'm pretty sure Tanya can relate, with Misha, and just looking at y'all as a couple together, man, it's, didn't want to interject on everything, but we've been there, man. We've been there, done that.
We'll have to talk about it over dinner.
Yeah. So it just does my heart to know that, man, where y'all at right now, y'all in a really great place. Y'all probably don't even realize it. More than you think.
Yeah,
more than you think.
You guys are in a great place sooner than later.
We were there.
Yes, yeah. Sooner than we were there. So you guys are like way ahead. I don't know how y'all did that, but you guys are like way ahead.
Well, I think it's because you guys seem to have, you know, God in your lives at a very early age, right? And I think that played a major part in you guys' journey and what has kept you guys together to continue to fight, you know, for your marriage and everything that you guys got going on. So any closing remarks, man? We're gonna let you guys get out of here, but any closing remarks, man, that you guys would like to share with anyone that's watching and listening to your story today?
In the words of Kev and Liz, our internet cousins, Kev on stage and Melissa Frederick, marriage be hard, but it is very beautiful. And I tell him all the time, you know, he's my best friend, and I would not want to do life without him. You're gonna have hard no matter what. Like, you might not be married, but life is gonna be hard. We don't get to choose that. But, you know, if you get somebody to love, you can love them and they love you back. Go for it. It's worth it.
Couldn't have put it better myself.
Good deal. Josh, she did it? You don't want to add anything? She did it?
Yeah, we just want to thank y'all. Y'all have been a blessing to us. And this podcast was, this is our first time doing something like this. So it was an honor for it to be with you guys, and we appreciate it. And yeah, let's keep going strong with our marriages, honoring the Lord.
Yes.
For sure, man. For sure. So, well, thank you guys again, man, for being on Couples Connect podcast. Man, really, truly do appreciate it. You guys have truly been a blessing, man, to us for sure. Yes. Just y'all spirit, how y'all connect, man. I just love it. So, keep on fighting the fight, baby. Y'all gonna do it. Y'all gonna do it. Y'all gonna do it. And y'all get to 25 years and y'all be like that old couple, you know what I'm saying? Y'all gonna become that old couple to a younger couple, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the goal. That's the goal, right? And that's the true flex. That's the true flex for sure.
That's right.
Amen.
For sure, man. Well, hey, man, this your boy Kev, man. This is my boo thing.
Tanya.
Hey, man, if you got something you want to say, man, in the comments about this episode, drop in the comments, man. We'd love to hear it. We'll comment back, man. But other than that, man, once again, this is Couples Connect. We out. Peace.